In this video, I'm going to show you how to edit and customize your layouts and create multiple different layouts that you can use across different pages in your website. So what is a layout? A layout includes items like your header, your navigation panels, and other menu items. So to edit our layout, what we can do is simply click on our header and then click Edit Layout. Or what we can do is come here to our navigator and go to our layouts and then select the layout that we would like to edit. So let's go ahead and edit our default layout. And it's currently got our header settings open over here, and that is because our header is selected. But let's just exit out of that, and I just want to go over our layout base settings first. So if I come here to my settings for the layout, you'll see we've got a few different style settings. We've got our background setting, our body, and our preloader. Then we have our element settings, which is our header, which is this menu along the top. We've got a floating menu, which will be this menu over here. And then we have our side panel, which would be that menu over there. I'm going to get into those in a little bit more detail in just a little bit. For now, we're just going to focus on the basic style settings. We also have our advanced settings over here, which is where you would put in your custom CSS. So this is where you would put your header tracking codes, etc. All right, so let's have a go through our style settings first. We're going to come here to our background settings, and by clicking on that, I have now added a background. You'll notice that all of the background settings are pretty much the same as anywhere else in the system where we apply a background to a page. So we're just going to stick with this. We're going to say, yep, it's got a background color, and that is our primary color. I'm going to exit out of that, and then I'm going to come to my body settings because you see nothing has changed. So we're going to come to our body settings and we're going to edit it. And you'll see here we can change the width of the body of our page, and we can go ahead and make that smaller. We can then come here to our alignment and choose if we want our content stretched across the page, if we want it positioned at the very top, if we want it to be centered, or if we want it at the bottom. So we're just going to stick with the good old stretch. We also have the option to add a background here. So that is going to change the background color for our page. And this is going to apply to different blocks as well. So if I exit out of this and we just come here back to our home page, you'll see that now that has applied to all of our blocks that didn't really have a background applied to them in the first place, or any block that had a opaque background. Now we have our background color sort of shining through. So that is what that background setting is going to do. So let's come back here to our body. And then we have our shadow settings. So we can add a shadow to the outer edges as well. And you can change that too. All right. And then we have our preloader settings. And here you can go ahead and choose what kind of preloader you would like. So let's go ahead and select this little Pac-Man one. You can make it a custom color or a default color. So let's go ahead and make it a custom color and choose one of our style colors. So let's make it our primary color, or let's be crazy and make it our secondary color. And then you can choose to wait until all the modules on the page have been initialized or not. So we're just going to leave that as no. All right, so those are the settings that we have enabled right now. I'm going to go ahead and just put this all back to normal, delete the background, and let's go ahead and delete that background as well. All right, so now everything should be pretty much back to normal. Oh, and then we can get rid of the shadow as well. Okay, so now it looks okay. We've got our preloader. We do have this background applied as well. We can also go ahead and delete that. We don't need it. All right, so let's start simple. Well, as simple as we can, and let's start with our header settings. So to go to our header settings, all we do is select our header. And then you'll see that we have a bunch of different settings for our header. We have our header, the menu, and submenu settings. So our settings for our header, we have our elements, and that is going to be which elements we would like to show. And by elements, I mean these items over here. We've got our login and log out icon, and we have our search icon, but we can also enable our cart, and you'll see the cart appears there, and our admin login as well. So all of this sort of falls under this little login icon here. You can also go ahead and customize the style and color of it. So we can go ahead and make that our primary color. And there you go. That's our elements settings sorted. We can also choose whether or not we want our header to overlap with our content. So if I enable that, you'll see that the background disappears and it then takes on the background of the first block. So if I come here to my homepage, you'll see that it is now overlapping with the content of the first block. In this case, that doesn't look so great. So we're going to come back to our settings and we're going to say no. We can then also edit our logo. So we can choose where we want our logo to appear. So we can choose if it's going to be on the left, in the center, or on the right. We can choose the size, so it can be the original size of the logo image, or it can be custom. Now, this obviously, me showing this doesn't work if I don't have a logo here. So you'll see it's choosing the system type logo. So this is the logo that you might have uploaded to the system already, but you can go ahead and choose a custom logo. And it's just pulling this file up for me, which is great. So this is going to allow me to show you those settings a little bit better. So again, you can align your logo to the left of the header, you can center align it, and you can go ahead and align it to the right. You can also change the size. So currently we've got the original size, but we can go ahead and make a custom size as well. So we're just going to stick with the original size. I think it's fine. And let's go ahead and align it to the left. You can also add some padding to your logo if you wish. All right, so now that we've customized our logo, the next thing is that we can make this header sticky or not. So if I say, yes, I want to make it sticky, we suddenly get a bunch of different settings. And when we say we've got a sticky header, what this means is when you scroll down the page, the header doesn't disappear. It's always going to stay at the top of the page. So we can add an animation, so we can have it fade in, and we can choose how long we want that to be. So here it's 1 second. We can make it a little bit shorter if we want. Then we can add a background as we're scrolling. So let's go ahead and say, yes, we want it to have a background. It'll be our primary color, but we'll turn the opacity down a little bit. All right. And then we can add a shadow as well if we want. And we can change our logo. So we can say no logo or yes logo, add the logo, same sort of thing. So you can have a different logo. So maybe a different colorway of your logo as you scroll down. So let's just say that actually our logo can go ahead and disappear. We don't want the logo there. All right, and then we have our elements, and it's again these items here. So those are just going to have our primary color. We can then also choose the size of it. So let's go ahead and see what that looks like. So I'm going to come here to my home page and I'm going to scroll down, and you'll see that that then changes. You'll also have noticed that it fades in as I scroll, and we've got our shadow over here, and everything else is the same. So that is what those changes look like when you apply the sticky settings. Now there are a few more settings for our header, so let's go through those. So going back to our layout settings, and let's scroll down. All right, so lastly, we have our sizing. So this is how big you want your header to be. We have our spacing, which is our padding. So we can apply some padding to our header as well. This is all the same. We know all of these settings already. And then we have our style, which is our border, background, and shadow. So same thing. So you can go ahead and customize that to your heart's desires. All right, then we have our menu settings for our header, and we have our show effects. So currently, all of our menu items are always visible. We can make it have a slide effect. So if I preview this quickly and I click on that, all of my menu items will slide in. I can also change that to have an overlay effect. So it's going to have an overlay effect over my entire page. All right, but let's just, sorry, I scrolled by accident. There we go. Let's just make it always visible for now. You can then choose your positioning. So it's aligned to the right or the left, or the center, whichever you prefer. I'm going to leave it as aligned to the right. You can then choose when you want your submenu or how you want your submenu to open. So currently it's set to a hover setting. So if I just move that down so we can see a little bit better, you'll see that as I hover over that, then the submenu opens. But I can change that to be opening on a click. So now I have to click on that item. Let's enable preview mode. Click on that, and then only does my submenu appear. All right, let's disable preview mode and go back to our settings here. All right, next we've got our titles. This is referencing the page titles. So if we say yes, you'll see that our contact page and our products page, those have titles. If I come to my contact page, didn't mean to navigate here, I meant to open my settings, there you go. You'll see that the title over here says contact. If I change that, then that title is going to change in my layout settings here. All right, let me open those header settings again. All right, because I don't have a layout applied to that page. All right, so let me open my layout settings again, select our header. All right, and I don't want those titles to appear, so let's go back to our menu setting and say no. And then you can show items. So you can show all menu items or only items of the current, or only children items of the current root menu. And because our home page doesn't have any submenus, it's not going to show anything. So we actually just want to show all of our menu items. All right, then again, we've got our padding, our margins, our text border, all of our design settings over here for those menu items. All right, then we have our submenu settings, and this is pretty much just stylistic, what the padding is, the background of it, and the way our text appears, the font designs and typography. So that is all pretty straightforward. All right, then we have two other menu types that we can add to our layout. So let's open our layout settings, and we want to enable our float menu and enable our side panel. So let's go through the settings for each of these. We're going to click on our float menu over here, and you'll see that we've got some elements. Currently, we've got 3 elements. It is our language, currency, and shopping cart. You can choose which of those you would like to be visible or not. So maybe you don't want the language and currency to be available, but you just want people to be able to view their shopping cart floating over there on the side. You might do that if you don't have this shopping cart enabled at the top. Let's go ahead and just leave all those items available. You can then also choose where on your page you want it to be aligned, or positioned. So you can choose pretty much anywhere you want it to be. I'm going to leave it on the right center because I'll remember that it's there. Again, you can choose your margin and padding. So you can change the style of the pop-up. So this is how big that pop-up is going to be, and all of the different styles that you can apply to it. So you can change the labels and the fields. So let's go ahead and preview what the pop-up actually looks like. So let's select our language here. So you'll be able to customize exactly what this looks like. So if I come here to my settings, edit this, I can change the overlay color to be my primary color, for example. I'm just going to come here to the custom setting and just make it a bit more opaque. And there we go, that overlay color is done. We can change the padding, the background color, the width, so how much space this is going to take up on our page. Let's just leave it at our full width. And then you can change the label, so where you want it to be, if it's inside or on top. You can change the text, so what our font actually looks like in this pop-up. And we can go ahead and edit the fields and buttons in the same way that we do anywhere else or in our general pop-up settings. All right, then you can edit the border of it as well. It's the same as everywhere else. And you can edit the background, and you can add a shadow. So those are all of the items in our float menu settings. Let's go ahead and exit out of that. And now we want to have a look at our side panel. Now, obviously, you're not going to have your side panel and your header enabled at the same time, or maybe you will, and that's what you want. But let's have a look at our side panel settings quickly. This functions pretty much in the same way our header does. As you can see, we've got all of our menu items here, and then a few extra items along the bottom. So currently we've got our position set to the left. You can change it if you want it on the right instead. Let's keep it on the left for now. Then you can keep the appearance static, or you can have it slide in. So if we preview and I hit my menu over here, you'll see that that slides in. All right, let's exit preview mode. Okay, and let's just have that not slide in. Let's just have it be static for now. You can then also choose your elements. So what elements you would like to be visible here, login and register. You can choose to show all menu items or only the children. Let's stick with all menu items. And then we have our social media icons as well. So here you'd be able to link whichever social accounts you want to link here, and they'll show up here where we have our social accounts. You can also change the style of these icons. So if you want them to be light, if you want them to have color, or if you want them to change when you hover over them. So those are some extra little style twizzles that you can put onto the social icons. Then you have your logo, of course, and we can do the same thing with that logo. So let's go ahead and choose our custom logo, and it's going to apply our little placeholder logo over there. All the same settings apply to that. And then we have our style for the side panel, if we want it to be light, dark, or a custom color. And then you can come in here and completely choose what you want to do with it. So we can go ahead with, let's say, our secondary color for once, and then make it a little bit opaque perhaps. And then you can choose if you want your text to be dark or white. And you can choose if you want your text to be dark or white. We're just going to leave it with dark. All right, and there you go. So those are all of our side panel settings. But I'm going to say that for this layout, I don't actually want to have a side panel. So I'm going to come to my settings and I'm going to remove my side panel. I'll leave the float menu though. All right, then I can exit out of there and I can publish the changes that I have made to my layout. Okay, so let's go ahead and navigate back to our home page. All right, so what if we've got a page that doesn't have a layout? So our contact page, for example, doesn't have a header. So how do I add a header to this page? Well, that's very simple. We just come here to the settings of that page and we come here to the layout. We then choose which layout we would like to apply to this page. But now what if I want to apply a different layout to this page? Well, we can go ahead and do that. I'm just going to publish these changes quickly. Let's come to our products page. Now our products page, we probably want to have a different looking layout. Well, we don't probably want to, and we're just going to hypothetically say we do. All right, so to do that, to create another layout, we're going to click the plus icon over here, and we're going to edit this new layout. And then you can come in and customize this heading as much as you like to be as different as you like. And then you can go to a different page, let's say our products page, for example, and you can apply the layout that you would like. So you can choose the new layout instead. So that is pretty much everything that you need to know about layouts and how to apply them to different pages in your website and how to create multiple layouts so that you can use them across different parts of your system. In the next video, I'm going to show you how to use our history feature. I'll see you there.